attention to a new voice, the individual voice, the individual artist making film. Something that may be a film that you would see once and remember for the rest of your life. You may not be able to see it again. But I don't necessarily mean remember in a nostalgic way, but that it has an effect on how you think about life and how you think about the people around you and how you behave in your life. And maybe if you see the film 30 years later, the film has changed. In actuality, the film's the same, but you've changed. And so somehow you might be able to grow with the films, like listening to Beethoven symphonies. They change every time. They really do. And so I think that does not mean cinema can just be a kind of really enjoyable entertainment. I think that's fine too. It's just a matter of like an absorption of that and a completion. That's over, it's finished, and it becomes boring afterwards. But it's still very enjoyable and still very well done. But I think the film festival has the opportunity to introduce to the world different points of view, basically making the world closer and smaller, meaning people knowing each other and knowing each other's cultures. I think that's an important step. Having been a real lover of, I was about 10 years old when I saw The River by Jean Renoir. My father took me to see it, and I love that film, and I love Renoir. And yet, when I saw the Subject Ray, I realized that the people in Renoir's film or in other films made by English or French and Americans, the people in Pate Panchali were the people you usually see in the background of the other films. You follow? And I began to put it, wait a minute, this is very interesting. They're living in this village in the middle of what may be called a jungle of some kind, and yet these are people who really, there's no difference between us. And so as a young person, that opened the world to me because my parents were, they were literate, but they didn't have books in the house. There were no books. I had to bring in my own books, and really a lot came through seeing foreign films, or they're French, certainly Italian films immediately when I was 5 years old, the neorealist films. But, you know, there's a big difference between the Italian film and Sajid Ray, and then Ugetsu by Mizoguchi, which I also saw on television, dubbed in English.
With commercials?
With commercials. And it still was great. And then there was Kurosawa, you know. So all this was opening up. And the idea was to, if it affected me, a kid who came from a neighborhood where the parents weren't intellectuals and didn't read books and that, well, you know, maybe, you know, similar kids around the world might see a film and be affected by it. And they may not make films or anything, but it could change their lives. And so I became very sad to realize, of course, the impermanence of life, as we all know. But does it have to be that impermanent so soon? That's all. Why don't we... People say, Marty, the whole world's going to die. And you say, I know, but we're heading towards the sun, or we're heading towards the moon or something. And so, in the meantime, we're all here.
You're told that sometimes the 30 seconds is life. Can you share us and can you tell us which one was the best 30 seconds in your life? Thank you.
You mean which... best 30 seconds of my life. You mean in film? Is that it? All right. Well, I mean, I think actually it was a 30-second spot I did for. It was the first time I think for Giorgio Armani, back in 1980s, a black and white one that Nestor Almendro shot, and I thought it was a boy and a girl in a bedroom talking and learning each other's language, and I thought it was very sweet. And that's when I realized too, shots could be on a screen. I should have known it from the Soviet cinema. I should have known that because you could, in 3 perforations, not even 4 perforations, not even 3/4 of a frame sometimes in Eisenstein, that things go by so quickly and it stays in your brain forever. And I should have realized that. I tried to do it. I think I was able to do it sometimes, but I really learned it in doing this quote commercial unquote, because I don't know if it sold anything for Mr. Armani, but we had a good time making the commercial. But the reality was, what's in the frame for how long? And what is it telling us, the viewer? And then if one frame is ambiguous, when that frame is cut to another frame and another frame, the 3 frames say something else. I'm talking theoretically, but it's very, very like a piece of music. You know when it's right. You feel, they say, the vibe, you know, the vibe. And I found that the precision that you need, or I should say the discipline that you need to be able to control that frame and the information in that frame is lessened every time. And even in this wild commercial we did about the aliens, that even that was a real workout. A real workout. That doesn't mean one is undisciplined when shooting a feature. It's just a different form. But it also shows you how powerful the visual image is. The ambition, I guess, you never quite lose that, to be honest. The ego, I guess you never quite lose it either. You try to. You try to, because it gets in the way sometimes. And so the more I believed people telling me such things, I think the more it hurt me. So I had to push that away. I had to say, you don't know. And I think it happened on King of Comedy. It's when I realized it was free. I didn't know anything anymore. I put it all into Raging Bull, then Taxi and New York, and then Last Waltz. And I said, I don't know anything. But primarily that thing of freeing yourself from restraint of what and how something should be or has to be, doesn't have to be. Once you get to that, it's great, because your biggest problem then is yourself. You have to deal with who you are, you see, and then that has to come out in artistic terms. And that happens almost every time in the past 10 or 15 years, whether it's a crazy mosaic like Wolf of Wall Street, or it's in 3D like Hugo, or it's Irishman, or it's Killers of the Flower Moon, or Silence even.
What's your answer for people claiming that cinema as we know it, and maybe this is also connected to festivals as we know it, is maybe not dead, but just about to die? What's your answer?
I don't think it's dying at all, no. I think it's transforming. It never was meant to be one thing. We were used to it being one thing, you know? I mean, I grew up as one thing. If you want to see a movie, you went to a theater. A good theater or a bad theater, but it was a theater. It was always a communal experience. Festivals gave you indication of what other movements were around the world, how the world was expressing itself in cinema. Also history lessons or cultural lessons. But, you know, the technology's changed so rapidly, and it's changed so exhaustively and rapidly. It keeps changing that, in a sense, the only thing they could really hold on to is, again, the individual voice. The individual voice can, I must say, can express itself on TikTok, or can express itself in a 4-hour film or a 2-hour miniseries. Maybe, you know, miniseries. It's very hard to shoot those because of the production, the time needed, and that sort of thing. But what I'm getting at is that I don't think we should let the technology scare us. I think you don't become a slave to technology. Let us control the technology and put it in the right direction. The right direction being from the individual voice, rather than, again, something which is just consumed and tossed away. Remember when Mick Jagger, remember what he said? He said,
yes.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. He was right. He said, Shine a Light is the only film that I have not put Gimme Shelter in.
Yes, 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 yes.
I'm telling
remember.
you, I had some dental work done recently, and they put me out for it. I was, under. And apparently the dentist was listening to Gimme Shelter. It worked.
That's